Generation Z, the people who were born between 1997 and 2012, making them 13 to 28 years old this year. Insurance agents are well versed in doing business with consumers of many ages, including baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials. But the industry's youngest insurance buyers expect something different when it comes to the insurance they buy, and how they buy it, and how it gets serviced. Maybe. Some say their preference and expectations of Gen Z are different, that they're the first to be born in a world in which they don't know a time when they didn't have phones or tablets or computers. Social media is not just a way of life, but often it's the way that they get their news. And they also represent a big untapped market for all of us. Verisk recently published a study that said large percentages of Gen Zs had their insurance under someone else's policies. At the same time, their interest in optional coverages like bed bugs, libel, slander, vacation, pool sharing, moving and storage, all of that's pretty big. Michael Weaver heads Weaver Sales Academy, and he helps insurance agents connect with new groups of customers all the time. He also ran his own agency, practicing what he preaches. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we're so excited you're here with us today. And let's start with a strategic view of an agency's business. So many are used to looking at a variety of business breakdowns. How often are they considering how much of their business comes from Gen Z compared to Gen X and millennials and baby boomers?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say a lot of the agency owners that I work with, very rarely are they looking at the percentages of maybe the different age groups in their book of business. It's more product line specific around what products. And I believe that this is super important because when you look at, so you gave a really good Generation Zs were born, 1997 to 2012. And I looked at the other generations as well. So millennials, 1981 to 1986. You've got Gen X, 1965 to 1980. And then you've got your boomers, 1946 to 1964. And so I would assume right now that most books of businesses are going to have each category, like each age, in their book of business. And I would say most businesses are going to have a lot of boomers and Gen X's because those are the ones that have been working. They're the ones that have had the money. They've had the assets that need insured. And so right now, your book of business is probably heavily focused on those Gen X's, boomers, and millennials should be a decent portion. And the Gen Zs are what's going to be coming. And that's really what I would encourage to start focusing on is, okay, great, Gen X and boomers are going to be who is made up of a large percentage of my book now. But we all know that the great wealth transfer is coming. And no one likes to talk about dying, but boomers are on their way out, right? And so how can I position myself as an agency owner to be attractive to millennials and Gen Zs, which are the largest populations that you're going to be insuring over the next 10, 20, 30 years, and all of those that will be not only benefiting from the wealth transfer from the baby boomers and the Gen Xs, but also beginning to accumulate wealth themselves. And so if an agency owner is currently not looking at that is something to look at a minimum of 90 days of how diversified is my book of business and where are those customers coming from so I can continue to attract those customers like your Gen Zs and your millennials.
The Generation Z customers want different things from their insurance and from their agents. What's the same? What's different?
What it looks like is we're in the relationship business when you really break it down. And I know sometimes Gen Zs continue to get a bad rap. And I used to be one of those that was like, oh my gosh, like what are we doing here? But a recent study just came out that Gen Z, 83% of Gen Z surveyed wanted a relationship with their financial advisor. And I look at an insurance professional as part of that financial plan. And to go on, even though we're talking about Gen Zs here, millennials, 79% want a relationship. And so when you think about, again, those two biggest age groups that you're going to be working with, insuring, helping out, while yes, technology is very important and simplicity and efficiency and being able to even control on your phone or on your computer and having text capability, at the end of the day, people are people, and Gen Zs and millennials are craving that human interaction. They're craving relationships. And so right now, I believe is the best time ever to be an insurance professional, because you have customers that are creating or craving relationships with you. And that's really powerful because you have the ability to establish that human connection, be that go-to professional that your clients can turn to, while also offering them technology that makes the way you do business much more simplistic and efficient from a consumer standpoint.
Do Gen Zs take more convincing to work with independent agents? Or what should agents be doing to show them the value of working with an independent agent?
I don't like the word convincing. All right. So I don't think convincing is the right word here. Do I believe that they take more education, more empowerment? Do they expect more out of you, the insurance professional? I do believe that because just like you opened up, Gen Zs have been raised on cell phones and tablets, and they have had access to information to where if they can go on Google and find out more information than you, the insurance professional, can give them, your credibility is going to be really low. And so I don't believe that convincing is the right word. What I believe that Gen Zs and millennials are looking for are those that are passionate about their career, those that are willing to develop themselves, those that aren't price driven, but they are educators, because the best salespeople in the world are those that what? Ask really great questions and then educate how they solve those problems. And as an insurance professional, that's what you do best, is you have the ability to establish a human connection with a Gen Z that knows nothing about insurance, knows nothing about finances, knows nothing about what they need to be doing to protect themselves against lawsuits, against making sure that if their house burns down tomorrow, that they don't lose the biggest asset they have right now in their life, that if something happens to them and they pass away, that their family's not financially devastated.
Michael, do you have any stories to share, examples of agents you're working with that are doing really well with those younger insurance customers?
Yeah, so I would say right now, I mean, you have multiple success stories, and a lot of them are offices that are high performing, market different types of marketing strategies. So it doesn't matter if you're working internet leads, you've got paid ads going. But without a doubt, a lot of really successful agents have the same mindset I do around how am I building my agency just not now, but for the future? Because the more Gen Zs that you can have within your book of business, even if right now they're renters or they're staying at home with mom and dad, you start to establish relationships with them. And so, an agent I was actually speaking with the other day, he has over 30% of his book of business right now is Gen Zs, according to like his agency analytics that they do. And so I just asked him, I'm like, well, hey, how are you attracting these? And no secret, a lot of his business is coming from internet leads. But he also said that a lot of his Gen Z customers are coming from not internet leads, but they're shopping online. And he has like over 700 Google reviews online that are all 5-star reviews. And he said that that is why a lot of the Gen Zs and just millennials and most of his customers, from what he found, is they're actually going online to like look for insurance comparisons, see who's credible within their area. And he's standing out amongst the rest because in his area, he has over 700 Google reviews. The next closest insurance agency to him, I actually looked at it the other day, was like 80 Google reviews. So when you think
Wow.
about that from a consumer standpoint, are you going to contact the person with 700 plus Google reviews of 5-star ratings, or are you going to contact the person with 70? From a consumer standpoint, I'm going to go with the one that most people are like, this person's awesome, they're amazing, great experience. And then that leads me into the fact of not just Google reviews, but your online presence. So many times, us as agency owners, we've been in the brick and mortar space for years, and our brick and mortar is amazing, and it should be amazing, and it needs to be amazing. But your online office and your online presence needs to be just as good, if not even better, than the brick and mortar experience.
Insurance education likely plays a very important role for Gen Zs, especially since many haven't bought insurance before. For example, in that Verisk study we mentioned earlier, only a third of Gen Zs say they understand umbrella insurance. What are some of the ways agents should be educating younger consumers and getting information to them?
This is where that upfront conversation is so important. So I'm a huge proponent, if you haven't gathered this already, that your job as a professional is to have conversations with prospects and customers all day long. Like, we're not emailing, we're not texting, we're not sending out flyers. Like, the reason the consumer is going to buy from you is because of the education and the sales process. So I believe that this actually starts in the upfront conversation. My rule is always, we're going to quote more coverage and more policies with customers every single time. And when you start this process, you have to, number one, skill up, develop, grow yourself. But we're going to start obviously with the elevator pitch, and then the rapport building and the discovery conversation. I'm going to answer your question here in a second, but I believe that these two pieces, specifically the rapport building and the discovery conversation, are what's really missed in most sales conversations today. Because look, insurance is not, it's not easy. It's not an easy role. But you do have the most noble profession in the world, in my opinion. You have the ability to have conversations and put plans in place so that customers aren't devastated financially in the event that something happens. But it all starts with that upfront conversation around, hey, building rapport. So family, occupation, recreation, having a discovery conversation. What's important to them besides price when it comes to their insurance? So for example, you total out your car tomorrow. What does that claims process look like? What does good customer service look like? And then and the reason why you're asking these questions is because that's how you actually figure out the problem that you as the insurance professional then get to solve. And so then in the presentation, when talking about umbrellas, for example, your process that you could have in your agency is, we're going to quote an auto, home/renters, and an umbrella with every customer every single time.
Michael, how tech savvy does the agency need to be to attract and work with those younger consumers? Do you have any thoughts on what they should be using to communicate?
To answer your question specifically, yes, technology is an absolute must, but I don't think that it's just for Gen Zs. My 83-year-old grandma and grandpa that I am blessed to still have alive know how to do Zoom and FaceTime, right? Like, do you think if they have a claim, it would be better for them to be able to just go online and file a claim versus having to get in their car, drive 30 minutes to their insurance? No, they don't want to do that. And so I think that technology is going to be important, just not for your Gen Zs, but for all customers, because we live in a day and age to where you go on Amazon and you can have it delivered to your house same day. So people like the idea of efficiency, simplicity, and they want it now.
Michael, I know you help a lot of agencies using virtual assistants. Can you tell us a little bit about how agencies can leverage those VAs and potentially chatbots, maybe some technology I'm not aware of yet, to do more with less people?
Isn't that the name of the game as a business owner? How can we be more efficient? How can we have less people to manage, provide a better customer experience, right? Make more money. And so this is one thing that I fought for a long time. Like, transparently, I was and I still am a control monster. I call myself a recovering controlaholic. Okay. So, but what I learned as a business owner is the more that I can delegate, the better overall just my agency is going to do, the more freedom and flexibility I have. And so when it comes to virtual assistants, I'm a huge believer that every business owner out there, if you have the funds, of course, like there is that point of like, when is it right? And so, but when you have the funds to be able to hire a virtual assistant, and they're so inexpensive. I mean, you can get what, for less than $1,000, $2,000. And so the very first step I would recommend on any agency owner is having an assistant that helps you out, like managing your calendar, managing your inbox. That's going to free up so much time, the ability to communicate with customers. Think about virtual assistants with being able to hire as just incoming calls. Like they answer every single call that comes into the agency and navigates them in the direction that they should go, which frees up your sales team. It frees up your inside sales team. And so I believe that virtual assistants are an absolute must as just a business owner, but specifically an agency owner to help you run more efficiently. And when it comes to the technology, chatbots, okay, chatbots, AI is only going to continue to get better. So what you see right now, sure, maybe it's not the best you've ever seen. You give it another 6 to 12 months, and chatbots will be able to communicate with customers just like a normal person would be. And so I believe that you should be looking at CRMs that have that already built into it so that you can begin to train it to talk to customers the way that you want it to be able to talk to. And here's another fresh perspective is so many times we think that salespeople have to be within the four walls of the agency, or service people have to be within the four walls. You can look at virtual assistants as that as well to help you generate revenue, yet they're managed by somebody else. So for example, if you're an independent insurance agency owner with a book of business that really has no financial services production like life insurance, it's just never been a focus. Well, you can either go out and hire somebody, train them, manage them, hope they do a good job, or you can find a virtual assistant or a third-party company that specializes in remote life insurance sales that can come into your book of business with trained salespeople already, help you generate revenue for your book of business, and you don't have to do any of the management. You don't have to do any of the work.
It's important for the agency to staff to match those markets. Like, should they be looking to recruit and train Gen Z producers to connect with the market they're trying to reach?
Without a doubt, just like when I started in insurance, right? So I started in insurance at 21 years old. Who did I know? A bunch of 20 to 25-year-olds. So who were the very first people I contacted? A bunch of 20 to 25-year-olds. What did my referral system get based off of? A bunch of 20 to 25-year-olds. Now, so with that being said, I do believe that you do want to have Gen Zs and millennials within your agency, not just to attract customers, but you got to think Gen Zs, their level of emotional intelligence is super high. They're super creative. They're super innovative. They're very good with tech. So if you have an agency that maybe you have a bunch of tenured team members that have been with you for 15, 20, 25 years, and maybe some of you have been fighting technology like I did. Well, what's the easiest way to get someone in the agency that is really techie? Look at a Gen Z or a millennial that's what they were raised on.
Michael, you've given us a lot of great advice today on what an agency should do if it's looking to grow its business in the Gen Z market. What would you recommend as the top few things that an agency should do first to start on this journey?
So first and foremost, how to attract new Gen Z and millennial customers is number one. I believe that you have to have an online presence, which I know I've already said, and social media. You should have a social media presence. Yes, we can talk about technology. We can talk about CRMs. We can talk about text messaging. But before and that is super important. Don't let me stray you from that's not important, because how you communicate, how you service customers is very important. But insurance is sales, and you have to fill top of funnel. And the only way you're going to fill top of funnel is if you're actually attracting those Gen Z customers. And so the best way to find Gen Zs is going to be online and social media. I mean, the average person in general spends about 4 hours of their day on social media every single day. So if you want to attract Gen Zs, I'd be getting on social media platforms that they're hanging out, like TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, things of that nature, right? So I also want to talk about how to attract Gen Zs and millennials to your book of business, because I think this may be even more important. And that is, yes, technology is super important, but you got to go to the culture. Gen Zs and millennials both. I believe everyone has always been like this, regardless if we're talking Gen X or boomers. They just didn't have the courage to leave like Gen Zs and millennials do. If a Gen Z is not fulfilled in what they're doing, which is one of the top 5 things they look for in a workplace, is fulfillment. They look for stability, right? What are 2 things that insurance offers? Fulfillment. You work in the most noble profession in the world. You have the ability to create plans to make sure that people aren't devastated financially. It's a very stable environment, right? So we have the ability. They also look for flexibility, which is why I'm a huge fan of remote/hybrid work. But don't worry about the flexibility right now. Let's just work on stability/security and fulfillment or meaning in what they do. And so I want you to think about right now as an agency owner, what type of culture do I have? Is it a culture that is focused on fulfillment, meaning, changing people's lives? Is it fun? All right. Is it a fun environment? Is it a fun culture? If somebody walked in right now, does it feel like a funeral home, or does it feel like, man, this place is a party? They are excited about what they're doing. They are passionate about changing people's lives. Because if it's like a funeral home, that's a problem. Right? Gen Zs and millennials don't want to work at a funeral home. They want to work at a place that is fun, that they can find meaning and fulfillment in what they do every single day. And I believe the insurance profession is perfect for that. But you have to establish a culture of winning, a culture of fun, a culture of changing lives. And that's where I would start first. Because if you can start attracting Gen Zs and millennials to work with you, attracting Gen Zs and millennials as customers is going to take care of itself.